Visual communication to me is being able to communicate your concepts or communicate your ideas without having to spell things out with words. I think we rely on words too much.
When I'm talking about visual language, I show, I don't tell. I mean, that's one of the ultimate rules of any kind of moving image, is don't tell me, show me.
When we were young, the very first thing we do at school is draw, and we use crayons and we use, or maybe they use computers now, but they colour in shapes, and that's the first thing to do. And then after we've done that, we start to be learned to read and write and do maths and things like that. And I kind of think we get taught out of how to be visual.
So visual communication is not just about conveying something about yourself. It's not just about explaining something about the universe. It's about building an empathy between the maker of the work and the audience of the work.
We can communicate through the visual medium very effectively. We can create pathos, we can create poetry with visual imagery. And I think as human beings we crave that. So it's very important.
To communicate is something very important for human. And for an artist, of course, there's another urgent there, to express themselves, to express their ideas, to share their thoughts, just to say something that their words or their bodies or other means cannot achieve.
Well, visual communication is important in anything really, and especially with a school like this, even if we're doing things like programming, well, the program's nothing without a visual to go with it.
Visual communication is important because it allows you to explain or explore ideas in a way that can be exaggerated or it can be changed from the original. It doesn't have to be a perfect replication of something that exists.
Visual communication, like any form of communication, is getting a message from A to B through visual means. Now, in the first instance, I think you're communicating with yourself as you respond to an idea or a problem by drawing something. The very first person you're communicating with is yourself. You may well be able to articulate an idea more clearly through drawing it than any other way.
I don't draw as art per se. I use drawing in explanation or to work things out myself. If I've got a problem, I often sit down and try and draw it and figure it out with the drawing. And I think that's the important part, is that drawing can be art in itself, but it also can be one of the many tools that we use.
What it is it's that extra way of communicating an idea, both to yourself and to others. It's the hand-eye coordination, so it's the body working with the brain in complete harmony to unfold and accelerate ideas coming out. So if you're lucky enough as an artist to have the ability to communicate both to yourself and to others through drawing, then you will have accelerated thinking.
If I wanted to explain something to you, I would just get out a pencil and a piece of paper and I would explain it in front of you, and that would mean the dialogue would take place around the page, which is, one, it's nice, it's tactile, it's sort of better than a screen in many ways, and two, it's much faster. Well, I find it's much faster. If I start trying to do the same thing in Illustrator or Photoshop, it's just a little cumbersome.
I think there's always an attempt to make that sort of intuitive link we have with drawing, make it digital. So technology is still trying to emulate that kind of action, that physical action of drawing.
We get a lot of students through the BFA program that haven't spent a whole lot of time drawing freehand, as in using their hand, observing something and making drawings of it. And the problem with that is the thinking and the skill base that you pick up with freehand drawing makes people slow down, it makes people consider, and it makes people see in a more particular and different way. And I found that students that have traditional drawing skills tend to problem solve better and then can jump to digital media and use those things a lot more quickly and a lot more skillfully, rather than the other way around.
So I think to be able to draw, to make a line or two or something, that on paper or on any support, that's something very personal, very intimate as well. And you sort of personalize the mark you make. It's not through a machine, which is like, sometimes I feel it's more like a second-hand, mark you make, because through a software, it has been created again.
I know myself, I go back through some of my old college work or ideas I've worked with in the past, and they're in sketchbooks or they're in folios, and I can go through them. And for me, looking at the physical item can bring back emotions and memories much more effectively than flicking through a series of JPEGs on a computer. It's something that creates a piece of historic evidence as well.
You need to go back to your roots. You need to start from the basics. I start almost all my designs on paper before I progress onto something digital. I just find it works better for me. Could possibly be because I learnt that way first, but I mean, how many children are going to pick up a Wacom tablet?
So drawing in media arts is useful as a tool to plan perhaps a digital thing that you want to make.
You can talk till the cows come home about framing. You can talk and talk and talk. But if I've got a piece of paper and I draw that 19 by 16 by 9 frame, and I draw that person there, and I draw a little person over there, and I say, who are we looking at? And they go, that guy. And I go, right, so why are you putting that person there? Oh, okay, I get it, all right? Now, if I didn't have that, if I didn't immediately just place that in front of people, then it would take forever.
Now, we should all be able to draw at some point, and that doesn't mean to say we can draw literally and have fantastic representation. Whether it's getting the point across to me or to other people, that's all that matters. It's not about the quality of the thing, it's about the level of communication.
How can we get better at drawing? I think we shouldn't be afraid of it. I think we should engage with it.
It's a physiological thing. I mean, it's keeping that physical connection between your hand and your brain. And I don't mean your hand as in, like, you know, pressing the mouse. You need to actually practice that. That doesn't just come straight away. It's not like you wake up one morning and suddenly you're able to draw something. It doesn't have to be visually accurate, but it's got to be able to communicate an emotion.
If you're on the bus, on the train, no matter where you are, you've got a spare minute, pull out a little sketchbook, just draw whatever you're looking at.
I think everyone can draw. I just think a lot of people talk themselves out of it. The number of times we've heard people say, well, yeah, that's fine, but I can't draw. And I always use the analogy of which is easier to draw, that my hand like that or my hand like that. And people will always say like that, but it's not. It's actually, they're both exactly the same because they involve looking. And that's what people tend to draw by what they think's there. When they actually forget that and draw when they have to draw what is actually there by looking, it all becomes a lot easier.
My biggest bit of advice is jump in. COFA is very good at providing electives in drawing and painting. Really simple starts for people. You kind of start doing it, and then after a while you've increased your skill base really quickly, and you look back and go, I can't believe that I'm up to that. So it's by doing. I think my best advice is to jump in and do it. Don't be scared.
I personally think that one of the best things to do is to go to one of the many drawing workshops held in one of the many pubs in the city, because you sit down in an environment where you're comfortable.
So in the first class, normally when I teach my students, I'll say, there are a couple of things you need to have with you. You know, the courage or, you know, patience or practice, and also you need to be aware that depression or frustration will be with you at the same time as well. All the things are your friends and enemies, so you need to have all those things to be able to achieve a little bit more.
There are actually techniques that you can apply, and it makes your drawing much easier to make it accurate, and yeah, there are ways. So, you know, research it.
Expressiveness can be found in different ways of drawing, so I don't think people should be afraid of drawing in a different way to their teacher or their lecturer or their friends.
Doing something over and over again, it will increase your skills in rendering or observational drawings, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will make you a better drawer of ideas. Talking about more conceptual drawing or more process-based drawing, that's about invention. So in some ways being skilled up can be a problem.
With the drawing, it's not just about sketching a tree because it looks like a tree, and yes, I have got that, you know, exactly right. It's about, well, I'm sketching this tree, and the purpose of sketching this tree is to interpret light. So I'm going to focus on that when I sketch that tree. Again, you know, it's that one step in between what you see, what you draw. There's your process of interpretation, which makes up, I guess, your work.